One doesn't have to look too far these days to see parents behaving badly when it comes to their children playing sports. I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Jerry Lynch to talk about his new book, Let Them Play: The Power and Joy of Mindful Sports Parenting. I hope you'll enjoy the interview. You described a sports parenting nightmare that oftentimes makes the news. Why have youth sports become so parent-centric?
Well, Monique, everyone's afraid. They're afraid their kids are going to fail. They're afraid the kids are not going to make it, whatever that means. And then parents internalize that. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they blame themselves. They feel like it's my fault if my kid doesn't get the next train to Stanford. So they get caught in this trap where the kids are playing because they want to have fun, and that's the reason why they're playing, and they want to enjoy their friends. And the parents start hearing the chatter about, well, you've got to do this and this and this, and you've got to pay thousands of dollars here and give them the special camp, special coaches. You've got to work in the snack bar. You've got to do all this stuff just to support your kids and be a good parent. But it's making us crazy. I mean, I have 4 kids who are athletic, and I've gone through this, and your weekends are not your own. It gets crazy. You start to spend all this money traveling with your kids, and it's all centered around this whole idea of their kids being successful. And what happens is the parents subsequently start to measure their own self-worth and live vicariously through their kids. And if their kids are doing well, I guess we're good parents, or we're good people, or we're good athletes. So it's coming from a place of insecurity, it's coming from a place of fear, it's coming from a place of being uncertain about the future. And what's lost in the whole process is having fun. The whole idea of, like, why do they do it? To have fun. Mm-hmm. Where is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what are some of the performance-destroying mistakes that many parents make? And what are the top 3 things that parents can do to support their children in sports?
Well, gosh, that's this is the book, really. The question is a great one, and it's very probing and comprehensive, to say the least. But if I were to give you the 2-minute response, what parents do is they get too wrapped up in the failure, and they get too wrapped up in whether they're being successful or not. And so it's a matter of the parents understanding, what is the purpose of this activity, and what do the kids really want out of it, and to communicate and listen to their kids. And if they do, they'll find out that the parents are going in one direction and the kids are going in another. So what I'm trying to do with this book is Let Them Play, is by letting them play, you're letting them get what they need out of it and go in that direction. So, and join them, join the journey. Parents are listening to too many other people in their heart. I mean, I always felt, my wife Jan and I always felt that, the idea was to have fun, but then all these words would creep into our heads, and then we try to manipulate the situation, and we wind up talking to coaches to make sure that the coach knew what we wanted for our kid, and meanwhile we're getting caught up in their journey and imposing what we think is the idea behind it all. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge mistake. And then, of course, we're all nervous about our kids failing. Will they strike out and all of this? And what I'd like to do in this book, Let Them Play, is I want to teach parents these skills and tools and strategies on how to work with things such as failure, setbacks, mistakes, errors, quitting a team, what about if the kid gets cut from a team or the kid doesn't make the team? Instead of getting frenzied about it and getting caught up in all of that emotional upheaval, what I do in this book is I teach them skills. For instance, here's one skill. Your child just failed. Well, rather than get flustered by it, understand that failure is our greatest teacher. So as a parent, once I realized that, that's how I learned everything, I learned things through my failure and setbacks. So what we have to do as parents is we have to go to our child and say, so you failed, okay? I understand that. It doesn't feel good. What have you learned from that? And then apply that lesson to something down the road. So that's a way of dealing with failure, which then becomes applicable to all of life, no matter what they're doing, whether it's a job interview or an interview here that I'm doing with you. If I fail, I fail. I'm going to learn from it, come back, and then I'll be better because of it. So this is just one of many, many, many tools and many strategies that I offer parents so that they don't have to get as crazy as they're going to get. And they could also be really good parents to their kids, where their kids can learn the valuable lessons, not only for sport, but for all of life.
I'm not a parent, but I have the pleasure of attending games with friends and family who do have children out on the field. And my feeling is that kids, they put enough pressure on themselves, and then to have parents chiming in vociferously about what they should and should not do while they're out there trying to have a fun time, it just, oh my goodness, it seems so painful to me.
It's painful, it's distracting, it's unnecessary. If in this interview, if I had people shouting to me, hey, take your left elbow, put it down. Okay, I got my left elbow down. Sit up straight, okay. Now look right at her. You're not looking at her, your eye contact, look over here. Change your tone of voice, blah, blah, blah. If I were hearing all that stuff, I'd be a mess. And I'm fairly, able to do what I do and do it well, but I can't hear these other messages. By that time, it's too late. So you're right, the kids feel distracted and they feel a lot of pressure. And the pressure is not just coming from the parents as well, it's coming as well from the coaches who that's another whole story which we won't get into, but the coaching situation is these coaches feel that they're going to be good coaches if they can win, so they put a lot of pressure on the kids to win, and they take kids out of a game if they make a mistake and they don't learn from that mistake and they get penalized for making the mistake. So it's really a nightmare is what really happens. But sticking just with the parent piece, the parents feel a lot of pressure in terms of their peers to be good parents, and they're measuring their own parenthood based on how their kids are performing, so they start correcting their kids and putting pressure on the kids. Really what it all boils down to, if I had to summarize this book in one lesson, and maybe I shouldn't do this because then people won't want to read the book, but there's so much more in the book, but really we only need to say 5 words to our kids. Just 5 words. Just say, I love watching you play. 5 words. That's all you have to say. Coming home in the car from the game, listen, next time you get on third base and there's 2 out, what you want to do, you start doing this and debriefing the game. The kids don't want to hear that. That's not fun. But if the kids sat back and you were saying, I just love watching you play. I have a 28-year-old son who coaches basketball. He's a head coach for a high school. And I went and watched him take his team to the state championship. And I know basketball. I would never even talk about basketball. He knows more than I ever will know. But the point is, the only thing I had to say to him after that game is, Sean, I love watching you coach. Thanks, Dad. And that was the end of it. And kids are the same way. We don't want to go into detail about this stuff. We just want to, we want to be present and take that pressure away by not getting in. We have to give the game back to them and let them play.